Hello, hello, everyone. We're just going to wait just a minute until people get in, and then we will get started. We're glad you're here. Okay. Okay, just a second. Let me. Okay. Hi, welcome to Tutorial Tuesdays. This is our 56th Tutorial Tuesday, sponsored by Zen Yarn Garden. My name is Laura Cameron. I am a sample knitter for Zen Yarn Garden, and I show up on these tutorials sometimes. I have very little knowledge relating to tonight's tutorial. I am just going to hang out and support Mary Beth Temple, who is a fabulous knit and crochet instructor, but tonight she's going to be teaching you some basics of crochet. A couple things. First of all, I will put any links that we need in the chat. Feel free to ask any questions because I will be monitoring chat. And partway through the evening, we will be doing a drawing for a $25 gift certificate. So stay tuned. I will tell you when to open your chat. And you'll have to pay a little bit of attention because I'm going to pull a trivia question out of something that Mary Beth says today. So without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Mary Beth Temple, and she is going to talk to you about crochet.
Well, hello and welcome to the dark side. I am one of those people who both knits and crochets. And one of the things I like about the current, shall we say, zeitgeist in the craft community is there seems to be less and less of a division between knitters and crocheters. Whereas in the olden days, it was like the crocheters were over here and the knitters were over here and never the twain shall meet. So I'm going to do some super basic crochet tonight. Now, if you go over to the YouTube channel that Laura will link, you can see I've done a beautiful wrap in granny squares with some double crochet embellishments, and we did classes on those in March. And if you want to know how to crochet edgings onto knit fabric, well, come join us next Tuesday and we'll do that again. So tonight I want to just go over the very basics of getting started and single crochets and double crochets to give you just a very basic idea in 30 minutes of what we can do. And then come join me next week and we will put our fabulous crochet knowledge to work on some knit samples. So the first thing we're going to do is make a slip knot. Now, I don't know, maybe you guys can tell Laura in the chat, if you are mostly knitters or mostly people who have had no experience in the yarn crafts at all, because I'm kind of curious. But how I make my slip knots, and there's all kinds of ways to do it, is I bring a fold maybe 4 to 6 inches up from the cut end. You want to leave a nice long tail to weave in. And then I twist the loop. I'm going to bring my index finger and my thumb from the back of the loop and grab the working yarn. Of course, the working yarn is what is attached to the ball or skein of yarn, and the tail is the cut end. I'm going to pull that loop through and give it a little tug, and there is my slip knot. And the reason we call it a slip knot, of course, is because if we don't want it, we can pull on it and it will slip away. So there's my loop. I'm going to grab that loop and pull it through, make my slip knot. I'm going to put that right on my hook and tighten it up. I don't want it to be death grip, obnoxious, super tight. I want it to be the size of the hook. Couple just very brief things. There are different styles of crochet hook. This is called an open throat hook for obvious reasons. You can see that where that hook is pretty open. There are also closed throat hooks. Sometimes people that knit and they grab whatever crochet hook is to hand and it is not comfortable for them, sometimes changing the style of hook can make it a better experience for you. So again, if you're just grabbing whatever you have, sometimes the tools can make a difference. So don't come in here and go, I hate crochet, I tried it, it's terrible. It might be for you, but it also might not be. The other thing I'm going to say is I tension my yarn like a drunken monkey. So I am going to tension my yarn the way we generally teach beginners to do it. If you tension your yarn in a different way, that's fine, as long as you are internally consistent. you are fine. I actually throw when I crochet and nobody's looking because I throw when I knit, and I learn to knit first. So, but generally speaking, you want to tension your yarn. And again, if you can do it in a similar manner to the way you knit, if you're already a knitter, then that's going to make your life easier. The last thing, and then I promise I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to start crocheting. For the purposes of this evening and for the purposes of most of the crochet that you will learn when you're a beginner, you're going to yarn over. Your yarn comes over the hook. I have noticed some contention on TikTok, especially because some of the newer to the industry crocheters yarn under because they learned doing amigurumi. That is not the same stitch, and I don't care if TikTok says it's okay. It's not. Learn to do it yarn over, and you will be able to crochet all kinds of things sooner rather than later. So I have my slip knot on my hook, and I want to make sure, let's see if I can get a little closer without it getting blurry. I want to be on the fat part of my hook. A lot of people crochet tightly when they start, and it tends to be because they're holding their work too close to the throat and it's not getting the full circumference. The gauge comes from the roundy part, not the thumb rest and not the part close to the hook. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to chain 10, 11, let's go 11. So I'm going to yarn over and bring that yarn through the existing loop that's on my hook. And that loop that we put on there, that slip knot, does not count. So that's 1, 2, and I want to be pretty loose. Again, not sloppy, but I'm going to have to work into these chains later. So I want to make sure that I'm going to have enough room in there to put my stitches in. That's 4, yarn over, pull it through, and make sure it gets up on the fat part of the hook. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And also, obviously, I'm not using the fabulous Zen Yarn Garden yarn because I wanted something chunky that you could see. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to make 1 row of single crochet. Single crochet is sort of the basis of most of the crochet stitches. So I'm going to go in the second chain from hook. We call that a turning chain. Now for single crochets, 99.99% of the time, I never like to say always or never, that turning chain does not count as a stitch. So we made 11 chains because I want 10 single crochets. The other thing I want to point out, this is the front or the V, and if you're a knitter, it looks like a single column of stockinette stitch. If you flip it over to the back, you get these bumps. Now, many of us, if we were taught to crochet when we were younger, were taught to go in the front or the V of the chain, but I have learned over my many years that if you work into the back or the bump, you get a neater edge. So if you're learning from scratch on this video, this is a great trick to know. So I'm going to skip the first bump and I'm going to the second bump. I'm going to insert my hook from front to back. I'm going to yarn over, back to front, draw up a loop and pull it through the chain. I have 2 loops on my hook, 1, 2. I'm going to yarn over and draw it through. That is 1 single crochet. That turning chain does not count in single crochet most of the time. So let's go all the way across. I'm going to the next bump. I'm going to insert my hook in the bump. I'm going to yarn over and draw up a loop. I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to yarn over and draw through both of them. That's 2. I'm going to go do this all the way to the end. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So So there's my 10 single crochets that I got by chaining 11. So here is the top of my work. Once again, you can see all my little stitches lined up in the row. So there's 2 legs of each stitch, and we're going to work under both legs of the stitch. Again, there are instances where you might want just the back leg or just the front leg. But 9 times out of 10, unless you're told otherwise, you're going to work under both legs of that stitch. The other thing I want to show you, if you've been crocheting for a while and are just using this as a refresher, look how nice that bottom edge is. It looks just like the top. It's super easy to work into later if I need to, or it makes a nice edge if I don't want to work into that later. So that's why working into that back bump to get yourself started is a really cool trick to learn. So now, the other thing, that working into the chain is the thing that ticks people off. It's the thing that makes everybody crazy, and you only have to do it once. If you're crocheting a scarf or something, you're going to work into that chain and then you're going to go move forward and live your life. So don't let working into the chain put you off, is all I'm going to say about that. So now we're going to work some
it's sort of like when you cast on too tight and the first row is tricky.
Yes, exactly. And I have discovered, again, I've been teaching crochet for a long time. A lot of times your early crochet mistakes can be solved by getting a bigger hook because it's not fighting you. Anyway, for our second row, we're going to chain 1 to turn. So there's my chain, and I'm going to turn the work. Now, remember I said earlier in single crochet, the turning chain doesn't usually count as a stitch. So I'm going to pretend that's not there. The only reason that's there is to get my yarn from here, where it was, to up here, where I need it to be. So we're going to go under both legs of that stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Through both legs of that stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. And we're going to do that to the very end. And now you're single crocheting, and it's super easy.
And to answer your question from earlier, it looks like we mostly have knitters.
Very cool.
And I will say that when I taught myself to crochet sort of from a book and reading about it before YouTube was a big thing. And I discovered many years later that I wrapped my yarn around the hook the wrong way when I watched a video.
Yes, and a lot of people learn that way, and especially, again, on TikTok. And I'm not talking smack about the TikTok hookers. I'm on Crochet Talk myself. But it is fascinating. It's a different way of working than those of us were taught. And there's nothing wrong with yarning under if you're making amigurumi and you want a super tight stitch. It's when people conflate yarn under and yarn over. Because if you're making a little crochet mushroom, does it matter? It does not. If you want to do anything else and learn more stitches and make more things, and really maybe you want to try Tunisian or broomstick or hairpin or something, then that yarn over versus yarn under becomes a huge deal. So
Well,
if you're learning, you want to learn correctly. So before you answer your question, I'm going to do just one more row in the sample. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Again, for single crochets, we're going to ignore that turning chain. It's just for me to get from point A to point B. Okay, Laura, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say the other thing about wrapping your yarn around back is that it catches in the hook at the top. So it actually holds it. The other issue that I had when I wrapped the other way is sometimes I would lose the yarn over because it doesn't have the same tension.
Well, and again, if you are doing yarn over, which is what you're meant to do, and you're working on it properly, and you're having a problem with that, it could be a matter of changing hook styles. Again, it's funny. Open throat, closed throat is one thing. Most people call it a Bates throat or a boy throat because back in the dawn of time, those were the 2 hook styles you could get. You could get Susan Bates, or you could get boy, B-O-Y-E. B-O-Y-E, boy hooks are closed throat, Bates hooks are open throat. So a lot of times if you'll see some, again, I sound like I'm 200 years old, but we didn't have so many choices in tools. And one of the cool things about learning to crochet nowadays is there are plenty of different tools out there for you to use. And you can experiment And this is a $5 hook, you know what I mean? You can get driftwood and buffalo bone and glass and every other darn thing that exists, right? But you don't have to. You can experiment with different tools at a really reasonable price and figure out what works best for you. So do we have any crochetations? Do we have any questions on single crochet?
I don't think we have any yet, but we'll see what we get. I guess we will take just a very short break, and I'm going to go ahead and ask a trivia question. So
I was just going to say we're halfway home if you want to do your thing.
yeah, let's do it. So everyone open your chat. I will select a random winner. Let's talk about okay, this will be a simple yes no question. When you are starting to crochet, does your slip knot count as a stitch or not?
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, I'm trying to pick things. Okay, let's go with it looks like Skeeter Noah. You can go ahead and message Zen Yarn Garden, and she will get you your $25 gift card. And the correct answer is no. So it does not count as your first stitch. I know if you missed the very beginning, that might be that you might not have gotten that one, but your slip knot does not count as your first stitch. So I'm going to go back to Mary Beth, and she's probably going to talk to you about double crochet, if I'm guessing correctly.
You are guessing correctly, but what I wanted to show you was this single crochet sample with a few more rows on it. One of the interesting things specifically about singles is the front of the stitch and the back of the stitch do not look the same at all. So there's the front of the stitch that has the two little legs coming down, but there's the back that has this cross thing going on here. So again, a lot of people panic. They look at it and they go, it doesn't look the same. It's fine. The front of the single crochet and the back of the single crochet are not identical. Now, the other stitch I want to get to is the double crochet. There's a half double crochet in the middle, but I've only got a half an hour. So this is what we're going to do. Now, generally speaking, you have a chain 3 at the beginning of the row or the round. Some people use 2. You can experiment and do what you want, but for the purposes of tonight, we're going to chain 3. So in this instance, again, I did my first row working into the back or the bump of that chain to get that nice, neat edging. So I did my starting chain. I think I chained 13 by accident. I meant to do 12. And then I did my first double crochet in the 4th chain from hook. So if you're going to use chain 3 for a turning chain, which is the most common, you're going to begin in the 4th chain from hook. And in this case, that chain 3, that turning chain, that does count as a stitch. If it doesn't, for whatever pattern you're using, it'll tell you that in the notes. So the double crochet.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, the double crochet is a lot taller than the single. So let's chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Again, if you keep going and you find out that chain 2 works better for you, that's totally fine. You'll have more practice as you go. So because this is where people get very confused. Because that chain 3 counts as a stitch, we're not going to work in that very first stitch. We're going to work in the next one. So I'm going to yarn over from back to front, insert my hook in the stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop. Now I have 3. 1, 2, 3, and they're all on the fat part of the hook. I'm going to yarn over and draw through 2 loops on my hook. Now I have 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to do that again, yarn over and draw through 2. So that's how it looks at the beginning. Now I'm going to work in every single one of these stitches, and I'm going under both legs of the stitch. So yarn over, insert your hook in the stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, draw through 2 times. That was 1. This is 2. Let's go one more time. Yarn over, insert my hook in the stitch, yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Okay, Laura, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say the purpose of the 3 chains is because the double crochet is taller than the single crochet, so you're matching the length. Basically what you said.
Every turning chain is to get you from where you are to where you need to be. That is the purpose of a turning chain. Now, half double crochets, which I don't think we're going to have time to get to tonight. Sometimes people use the chain two, they usually do a chain two at the beginning of the row or round. Sometimes people count them as a stitch, sometimes they don't. So again, you're going to really look at the pattern and see what that designer is telling you to do. But I wanted to get to the end of this row to talk about this last stitch. So for my last double crochet, I have to work into the chain. Now, am I going to pull the back bump up? No, because that's only for when you're doing your foundation row, your first row. So right here, and so the chain has 3 sections, 3 strands, the 2 legs that we talked about earlier and that bump. So I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to go under any 2 of those strands to make it durable. Yarn over and draw up a loop, 1, 2, 3, yarn over, draw through 2 twice, chain 3 and turn, 1, 2, 3, turn the work. Once again, the chain 3 replaces that first stitch. So I'm going to work in the next stitch to begin with. Yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over and draw up a loop, yarn over and draw through 2 twice. Now, if you're a beginning crocheter, 2 things happen to most beginning crocheters. One is your work starts to go this way. And what that means, especially if you're working in double, it means you're not hitting every stitch. You're not putting a stitch in every stitch. I highly recommend when you're starting out that you count at the end of every row and make sure that you have the number of stitches. Sorry about that, I hit the camera. That you have the number of stitches you're supposed to have, because the time to find that out is at the end of the row, not 5 inches down the row. The other thing that can happen is your work can go this way. Suddenly it's getting wider. And in that case, what often happens is that people are putting 2 stitches in 1 stitch, or very often they're working in that first stitch, they're forgetting to skip it. And so they're adding stitches, and so the work gets wider as it goes. So those are the 2 most common problems that people have. So one way to get around that, if you're concerned about finding the end of the row or the round, you can take your locking stitch marker and put it in the top of that chain 3 after you have done your chain 3. If you put a locking stitch marker right there, when you're coming back in the other direction, you know exactly where you're going to put your last stitch. And a lot of people find that that helps them keep their stitch pattern consistent, because I have 11 double crochets in my row. That's super easy to count. If I had 300, it would be a different issue, and I would not want to have a stitch count error at the end of every row. So how are we doing, Laura? Do we have any questions?
We do not yet.
How am I doing for time?
We have about 7 more minutes.
Very cool.
I will say, maybe you want to mention that there are UK and US terminologies, just so that people don't get confused.
That is also a really good thing to mention. Thank you for that. And I think I will do the half double crochet just because we have time. So if you are getting a Zen Yarn Garden pattern, which I highly recommend that you do, you will be getting a pattern that is written in North American terms. They're usually called US and UK terms. It's just, I don't know why. It's one of those things about people say that the United States and England are 2 countries separated by a common language because we call things different things. UK terms and US terms are not the same thing. So what we call a single, they call a double. What we call a double, they call a treble. What we call a treble, they call a triple treble. It's off by 1. So if you are looking for other patterns, make a note to yourself about whether it's a US pattern or a UK pattern. And if, for example, you were to purchase a pattern on Ravelry, when we list our crochet patterns on Ravelry, there's a box that we can check that tells you US or UK terms, but I'm teaching US terms because that's where I am. Canadians, I think, by and large, use US terms. Is that true? Laura, do you think?
I think so. I know that the patterns that Roxanne produces do. So I've only really heard of it in the UK. I just know it is important if you select a pattern. You can use a pattern that has UK terms in it. You just have to know so that because the stitches, that there's no actual difference in the stitches, they just call them by different names. So for instance, a
Right.
treble crochet
The
is in the UK is a double crochet in the US. So it will make a difference when your pattern won't look right if you're using the wrong terms. But
so I'm gonna
that's just a new crocheter thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm just going to do a half double real quick because we have
Yeah,
4 minutes
we have a
left,
few
and
more
why the heck
minutes.
not? And I did a chain 2 in turn for my half double crochet. Here's what my half double sample looks like. So a half double obviously is between the single and the double. The single crochet and the double crochet are the stitches you are most likely to find. But a half double has some cool tricks too. So to do a half double, we're going to yarn over like it's a double. And I'm going to go ahead and work in that first stitch and act like that chain doesn't count. I'm going to insert my hook and draw up a loop, and I have 3 loops on my hook. So this is exactly where we were with the double crochet, but for the half double, I'm going to yarn over and take it through all 3. So it's half a double crochet. Yarn over, insert your hook in the next stitch, yarn over, draw up a loop. I have 3 loops on my hook, yarn over and draw through all 3. So it's taller than a single and shorter than a double. But the most common stitches you will see are the single and the double. And the other stitch, let's do that real quick and then I'll stop talking at you. The other thing you'll see frequently is a slip stitch, most often used to join. There is slip stitch crochet. I'm just going to put a single in here to get where I need to go. But for the slip stitch, so if I was working in the round or I was joining 2 pieces, it'll say join with a slip stitch. To make a slip stitch, all you're going to do is insert your hook, so no yarn overs, draw up a loop and pull it through the work and also the loop on your hook. So you can see it's used most frequently as a joining stitch. Again, there is slip stitch crochet that you can do in colors. It's a really dense thing. But when you're beginning, you're going to most often find it as a joining stitch because it has almost no height. Do you see how it's not coming up very much at all off of my doubles? Insert my hook in wherever they tell you, yarn over, bring it through the work and the stitch. So this is almost no height. I also use this stitch. Say I had to make some doubles over here. Say I was making an armscye, an armhole. I wanted some doubles here and I wanted some doubles there, and I didn't want to cut the yarn and weave in the ends twice and have to join it over here. I might make my doubles over here and then slip stitch across to get where I need to go. Then I could, if I was doing doubles, say I could chain 3 and then move on with my life. So slip stitch is most often used to join or to get where you need to go.
Susie asks, when counting the stitches, is the stitch on the hook the last stitch or the one before that?
Say that again. I have to think.
When counting the stitches, is the stitch on the hook the last stitch or the one before that?
This is the last stitch. So if my hook was here, let me get the hook out of the other piece. So for this half double sample that I made off camera, I did use the chain 2 counting a stitch. So it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's my 10 stitches. The loop on my hook is not a stitch, it's just a loop.
Okay.
I hope that answered the question.
Susie asks if you can count those one more time, a little slower.
Okay, so for this is half double. Gosh, I'm sorry I keep kicking the camera on y'all tonight. And for this swatch, which I made off camera, I had chain 2 and turn at the beginning of the row, and I did count as a stitch. So my turning chain counted as the first one. And then I like to look for the V's, you know? So there's 1, well, I'm sorry, that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there's my 10th one right there. And my loop on my hook, that doesn't count for anything. That's just the working loop. That's just to keep things going. And while we're talking about that, if I want to end off, I'm just going to cut my yarn once again, leaving a nice 4 to 6 inch tail because I want to be able to weave that in later. A lot of beginning crocheters do not leave a long enough tail. You have two choices. I like to finish with a chain 1. I like to bring that yarn through, pull it through and tug it tight. But the other thing, and again, this is dealer's choice. You can do it however you like. That's how I like to do it. A lot of crocheters like to just pull that loop out. See, to me, that's too loose. And you're going to lose. You're gonna lose some stitch demarcation in the top one. So I'm gonna take it apart so I can do it my way. The other cool thing about crochet, if you mess it up, it's pretty easy to unravel. So there's my last half double. So I like to bring my yarn up and over, cut it, pull it all the way through, and give it a tug. That gives me some good stitch definition on my last stitch.
And it finishes off a little bit like when you're knitting your bind off.
Yep, very similar. Okay, I think we're good. Do we have any more questions?
I think we are too. Everyone says thank you, and this has been awesome, and they might have to try crochet again. I did put in the chat, we do have another Tutorial Tuesday next week, also with Mary Beth. She'll be talking about edgings, and my assumption is that some of those edgings might even be able to work on your knitted garments as well.
That is the whole point. We're going to learn the math to put crochet edgings on knitted squares.
Yeah, and crochet edgings can be really, really nice on the edge of knitted blankets, or if you're knitting, say, a sweater and you don't want to do a button band, it can sort of replace the decorative button band or the hem. So there are lots of good reasons to know a little bit of crochet. That's about where I fall, just a little bit, just enough to get me through. But thank you to Mary Beth, and thank you to everyone for joining us, and we will see you again next week. I dropped a link in the thread for where to register. And we hope to see you guys again.
Okay, thanks all.
Thanks.